More than 2 years later, HBO's The Last of Us is finally back for season 2. This might be the most excited I've ever been for a TV show's return, and I don't think I'm the only one, since the season 2 trailer became HBO's most watched trailer of all time in just 3 days. Turning the massive, twisty, non-linear narrative of The Last of Us Part 2 into a TV show will be no easy feat, and after season 1 it has a lot to live up to. When it premiered in early 2023, The Last of Us broke the video game adaptation curse with a near flawless live-action reimagining of a PlayStation classic. After a weird-ass Super Mario Bros. Movie, a slew of dreary Resident Evil movies, and a film version of Naughty Dog's own Uncharted that turned Nathan Drake into Tom Cruise in Cocktail and Sully into Mark Wahlberg, it didn't seem like video game adaptations could ever get it right. And then The Last of Us came along and proved that it could in fact be done. So what made The Last of Us Season 1 so great that it broke the curse? The Last of Us had a significant advantage over most video game adaptations from the offset, because the source material has stronger characters and storytelling than 99.9% of other video games, and most media in general, really. Most video game developers hash together a story around all the big action sequences they want to include. But The Last of Us's Neil Druckmann came up with the story first and the action second. He figured out all the dramatic beats of Joel and Ellie's emotional journey, then came up with the action to complement those beats. So The Last of Us's TV adaptation had a huge leg up over the adaptations of, say, Max Payne or House of the Dead, because it had a much stronger narrative backbone to work from. And on top of that, Druckmann, The Last of Us's own creator, was heavily involved in the series as a writer, director, and co-showrunner, so it was being guided by the original vision that made the game so special. But at the same time, it wasn't completely slavish to the source material, because Druckmann had Chernobyl's Craig Mazin as his co-pilot. Mazin is a hugely successful TV producer, so he knows the business of television and the structure of television inside and out. He's a great storyteller with his own unique perspective, so he wouldn't hesitate to question Druckmann's judgment and discuss alternative ideas. And he's a massive fan of the games, so he brought that perspective too. Druckmann knew what he'd want out of a Last of Us TV show as its original creator, and Mazin knew what he'd want out of it as a fan.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
Most live-action video game adaptations are like watching a playthrough. When you watch the Doom movie or the Tomb Raider reboot, you're watching all the action without the fun and excitement of holding the controller and doing all these daring things yourself. So it's like a lesser experience of the game. HBO's The Last of Us cuts down on all the elements that work better in gameplay, like hallway shootouts and stealthing around rooms full of infected, and uses the fact that TV isn't burdened by interactivity to dial up the talky scenes that facilitate character development. When he makes a video game, Druckmann is under constant pressure to get through the quieter character moments and put the player back in control. But in TV, the quieter character moments are encouraged, they're the focus, and Druckmann used that to his advantage to dig even deeper into the real meat and potatoes of the story. This approach wouldn't work for most other games, because most video game stories don't have much meat and potatoes to begin with. The characters usually aren't strong enough to support a more character-driven, less action-heavy experience. But the cinematics in The Last of Us already feel like a prestige TV drama with gameplay wrapped around them. The cutscenes in most video games are just a stale exposition tool. There's no art or life to them, they're just there to set up the next bit of gameplay. But The Last of Us used performance capture technology to create visually stunning, emotionally rich cutscenes that could have been ripped straight from an HBO drama. So when it actually became an HBO drama, they could recreate a lot of those cutscenes verbatim.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel.
But I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everybody I have cared for
has either died or left me.
Everybody fucking except for you!
So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else,
Because the truth is, I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad.
Casting can make or break a video game adaptation. I love Kevin Hart, but he couldn't have been more miscast as Roland in Borderlands. Rupert Friend as Agent 47, Jake Gyllenhaal as the Prince of Persia, Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo as Mario and Luigi. Bad casting can ruin a video game adaptation before the cameras have even started rolling. And I don't care what people say, The Last of Us absolutely nailed it in this department. Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey both give totally different performances than Troy Baker and Ashley Johnson. Pascal's Joel is much more sensitive and vulnerable than Baker's, while Ramsey's Ellie is even more biting and acid-tongued than Johnson's. But they still capture the characters perfectly. Neither of them are just copying the video game. They're interpreting the roles in their own way, and those interpretations are distinctive and unique, but just as truthful to the characters.
We were called contractors.
It's a contractor. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, we were cool. Everybody loved contractors.
Pascal's Joel is just as gruff and grizzled as his video game counterpart, and Ramsey's Ellie is just as scrappy, quick-witted, and good-hearted as her video game counterpart. I don't see many people complaining about Pascal's casting as Joel, but I do see a lot of complaints about Ramsey's casting as Ellie. And the hill I'll die on is that Bella Ramsey is absolutely perfect as Ellie, and I couldn't imagine anyone else doing as good a job, even some of the more popular fan castings. Ramsey's comedic timing with the profane one-liners is spot on, and they're a wonderfully nuanced dramatic actor too. Ramsey can tell you exactly what Ellie is thinking or feeling with nothing more than a subtle look. Over the course of the season, they nail Ellie's journey as a sweet, innocent kid who gradually loses her innocence after facing a series of devastating traumas. They capture Ellie's childlike wonder when she's playing with Sam or reading puns from Will Livingston's magnum opus. They capture the puppy love in Ellie's eyes as she gazes longingly at Riley. But they also capture the look of shock and dissociation when Ellie hacks David to death with a machete, the pain behind her eyes when Joel finds her covered in David's blood, and her quiet emotional distance in the months that follow. They nail one of the trickiest parts of the character, showing the remaining glimmer of Ellie's innocence as she pets a giraffe. And they nail the look of skepticism that makes the final scene so beautifully ambiguous. And of course, the actors didn't just have to capture the characters individually, they had to get the relationship right, from their initial bitter standoffishness to their eventual undying love for each other as surrogate father and daughter, and they got that completely spot on. It helped that Pascal and Ramsey genuinely became close on the set, so they weren't just doing their jobs faking a friendship. The friendship and mentorship you see on screen is very real. When they fight, it breaks your heart, and when they're getting along, cracking jokes, getting to know each other, it warms your heart. Everything that made Joel and Ellie's relationship so riveting and lovable and moving in the game, Pascal and Ramsey capture in the TV show.
So time heals all wounds, I guess.
It wasn't time that did it.
I feel like gamers are way too hung up on finding an actor that perfectly resembles the game character physically. I wrote an article recently with casting suggestions for Aloy in the upcoming Horizon Zero Dawn movie, and the choices ranged from actors who share Aloy's physical features like Sophia Lillis and Sadie Sink, to actors who don't, like Florence Pugh and Amber Midthunder. And frankly, I think they'd all do a terrific job. But the top comment said it should be Hannah Hoekstra, Aloy's face model from the game. Literally all she would bring to the role is looking like she does in the game. Hoekstra didn't even have anything to do with the actual performance or characterization. That was Ashley Birch. Hoekstra just lent her likeness to the character, not to mention the fact that she's 37 years old and Aloy is supposed to be 18. They shouldn't put so much stock into the actor's physical resemblance to the video game character. That should be the least important factor in casting these iconic roles. It's much more important that the actor can capture the character's essence, their personality, their attitude, their motivation, their humanity. And Pascal and Ramsey captured all of that beautifully.
Did you know diarrhea is hereditary?
What?
Yeah. It runs in your genes.
That is so goddamn stupid.
You laughed,
I
motherfucker.
didn't laugh.
Yes, you did.
Jesus, I'm losing it.
You're losing it big time.
The TV show is mostly faithful to the source material, because the game is such a perfectly told story that it didn't need much embellishment. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. All the key beats are the same, the beginning and ending are the same, but a few things along the way got tweaked or replaced to make the story more suitable for its new medium, or try something fresh to surprise audiences who are already familiar with the game and keep them on their toes. There are bound to be some changes when a story gets adapted into a new format. That's what adaptation means, it's an evolution. These changes usually weaken a story. The Sonic the Hedgehog movies gave Sonic an unnecessarily tragic backstory. The Borderlands movie changed Tiny Tina from an escaped test subject to some kind of cloned Iridian human chosen one. And the notorious Doom movie replaces the one-man army with a whole squadron of soldiers, switches out demons for mutants, and generally fucks everything up. But most of The Last of Us's changes are for the better. The TV show had the freedom to take its time and let the characters breathe. It spends more time with Sarah, going to school and picking up Joel's birthday present, while the seeds of a zombie apocalypse are being ominously sown in the background. Spending all day with Sarah and really getting to know her made her untimely death even more heartbreaking, which I wouldn't have thought would be possible. I also love the cut that emphasizes the parallel between the soldier threatening Ellie and the soldier who killed Sarah. It perfectly establishes the thesis of the series. Joel is still haunted by Sarah's death, Ellie is the new Sarah figure in his life, and this time he'll do whatever it takes to protect her. The TV show used its cold opens as a great storytelling tool to explore little standalone stories and world-building nuggets. The first episode's opening talk show sequence sets the perfect foreboding tone, as a scientist darkly predicts that if the world got warmer, an unstoppable fungus could enslave humanity. The second episode's cold open, in which an Indonesian mycology professor is horrified to see the first inklings of the outbreak, establishes just how fucked the world is as Joel and Ellie begin their unlikely quest to create a cure. The finale's cold open, showing how Ellie was born and the circumstances that led to her immunity, offers fascinating new information that even players of the game didn't know, and gives Ashley Johnson the perfect opportunity to make a cameo appearance and pass the torch on to Bella. All these cold opens enrich the world and enhance the story rather than distracting from it. One of the biggest and best changes to The Last of Us is completely reworking Bill's section of the story. The outcome is the same. Joel and Ellie get their hands on a working cart for the next leg of their cross-country journey, but the way it gets there is drastically different. The Long Time episode is an absolute masterpiece. It's one of the most beautiful love stories ever told, set against this bleak, zombie-infested backdrop. I would have loved to see Bella Ramsey and Nick Offerman playing Bill and Ellie's banter from the game.
Take all my food, too, while you're at it.
By the looks of it, you could lose some of that food.
You listen to me, you little shit.
No, fuck you!
But that section of the game is basically just a side quest. The TV adaptation is much less action-packed, but it makes for much better television. It serves the same dramatic purpose, but it flips it on its head and presents a much more hopeful version of that message. In the game, Bill's section of the story shows Joel that if he closes himself off from love, he'll end up miserable and alone. But in the TV show, Bill's episode tells us that if you open yourself up to love, then even in this godforsaken post-apocalyptic wasteland, it's possible to lead a long, full, happy life. I've seen plenty of complaints that all the TV show's added side characters take time away from Joel and Ellie, but the TV show actually gives us a bunch of extra scenes with Joel and Ellie. In the game, you're constantly on the move from one combat encounter to the next, but the TV series shows them sleeping in the woods, eating Chef Boyardee by a campfire, and siphoning petrol out of abandoned cars, and it's all used as great opportunities for further relationship building. I'm not a fan of all the changes made by the TV show. I love Melanie Lynskey, but I find Kathleen to be a pretty boring, one-note character who doesn't add much to the story. Certainly not enough to justify taking the spotlight away from Joel and Ellie at such a crucial juncture in their initial bonding. Plus, the TV show has way less infected than the game. I get that this was intentional to cut down on the action and put more emphasis on the drama, but I think they overdid it. The infected seem like far less of a threat in the TV show. Joel and Ellie go for long stretches without seeing a single runner, which makes the cure that the entire story hinges on seem kind of unnecessary. However, I will say that it was a nice compromise to have fewer infected, but make them more dangerous when they do show up. Every infected encounter in the TV show ends with at least one major character's untimely death. Infected encounters are relatively easy to survive in the game, because they're a function of gameplay and the playable characters have plot armor. But it's much more realistic that if the world was full of these mushroom zombies, if you were unfortunate enough to come across them, not everyone would survive. So all in all, the good massively outweighs the bad. The negative things you can say about the changes the TV show made to The Last of Us are negligible compared to the flaws of most video game adaptations. They might have reduced the zombie quotient and added one character who wasn't very interesting, but at least they didn't throw the entire game franchise out the window and haphazardly start over from scratch like the Halo show.
I'm not good at this.
Yeah, you really aren't.
Mazin and Druckmann have got quite a challenge ahead of them, turning the gargantuan, multifaceted tome of The Last of Us Part 2 into a couple of seasons of television. But their incredible work on Season 1 proves they're headed in the right direction. They adapted Part 1 with a set of criteria that will serve them well as they adapt Part 2, and should be followed by anyone trying to adapt a video game into a film or TV show. Stick to the key themes and the dramatic core that made the story resonate with so many people, but don't get too hung up on the nitty-gritty specifics of the plot. Cast actors who may not resemble the video game characters physically, but perfectly capture their spirit, and make changes that not only make the story more suitable for the needs and strengths of its new medium, but also enrich the characters and their world. Whatever's in store for Season 2, the 13th of April can't come soon enough.
You swore.
Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked the video. Remember to like and subscribe and click on the little bell. And also seize the day and call your mom and be kind to yourself.